The royal city of Eldoria glowed under the golden light of the morning sun. It had been several weeks since the parade, and Tom's name was now known throughout the city. People called him the man who saved the child. Shopkeepers greeted him warmly, and guards at the palace gate nodded when he passed. For the first time in his life, Tom felt respected. He trained every morning with Sir Leon and a group of young guards. They ran laps across the courtyard, lifted heavy shields, and practiced sword drills under the watchful eyes of the older soldiers. Tom was not the strongest or the fastest, but he never gave up. Even when his hands bled from training, he kept going. Sir Leon noticed his effort and often said, "Discipline is stronger than strength. Keep working, Tom." Each evening, Tom returned home to his mother. She smiled every time he walked through the door in his training uniform. She said the sparkle in his eyes reminded her of his father, who had once been a guard too. Her words made Tom feel even more determined to change his life completely. But peace never lasts long in a city as rich as Eldoria. Unknown to most citizens, a group of thieves had begun planning a dangerous scheme. They called themselves the Black Lanterns, and their leader was a cunning man named Vero. He had once worked as a palace servant but was thrown out for stealing jewels. Since then, he had gathered a team of thieves who wanted revenge. Their plan was simple but bold. During the royal feast that would take place at the end of the month, they would sneak into the palace and steal the royal crown. Sir Leon received a report about possible thieves preparing to attack the palace. He immediately started investigating. He doubled the number of guards at the gates and trained everyone harder. One afternoon, he called Tom into his office. "Tom, I have a task for you," Sir Leon said. "We believe the thieves may have someone inside the palace who helps them. I want you to keep your eyes open during your work. If you see anything strange, report it to me at once." Tom nodded seriously. "I understand, sir. I will watch carefully." That night, the palace was full of movement. Workers prepared decorations for the upcoming feast. Tom helped carry food barrels into the storage hall. While moving one of the barrels, he noticed a man standing in the corner who looked out of place. The man wore a worker's uniform but kept glancing around nervously. Tom's instincts told him something was wrong. He quietly followed the man after finishing his work. The man slipped into a narrow hallway behind the kitchen. Tom stayed back, watching carefully. The man stopped near a window and whispered to someone outside. Tom could not hear the full conversation, but he caught a few words: "feast night" and "crown room." His heart began to race. He waited until the man left and then hurried to find Sir Leon. When he reached the guard office, Sir Leon was checking reports. Tom spoke quickly. "Sir, I saw a man in a worker's uniform talking secretly near the kitchen. He said something about the feast and the crown room." Sir Leon's eyes narrowed. "Did you see his face?" "Yes, sir. He had a scar on his cheek and a small black mark under his left eye." Sir Leon nodded slowly. "That matches the description of Vero's second-in-command. Good work, Tom. You may have just saved the crown." He called several guards and gave orders. "We will set a trap. They will come during the feast and we will be ready." The next few days were tense. Tom could barely sleep. He trained harder than ever, knowing that the safety of the palace might depend on him. Sir Leon trusted him now, and Tom did not want to fail. Finally, the night of the royal feast arrived. The palace was glowing with hundreds of candles. Music filled the air and laughter echoed from the grand hall. The king and queen sat at a long table with nobles and guests. Outside, guards stood at every gate and corner. Tom was assigned to patrol near the back corridors. His heart beat fast as he walked through the silent halls. The air felt heavy with tension. Every sound made him alert. As midnight approached, he heard a faint clinking sound near the window behind the storage room. He moved closer and saw a shadow slip through the open window. His eyes widened. There were 3 of them. They wore dark clothes and masks. One of them carried a bag of tools. Tom stayed hidden behind a column and watched as the men moved toward the crown chamber. He knew he had to warn Sir Leon, but if he ran away now, they might escape. He took a deep breath and decided to follow them quietly. The thieves unlocked the door to the crown room using thin metal wires. They worked quickly and silently. When the door creaked open, the man with the scar whispered, "Take the crown and be quick." Tom's pulse raced. He knew this was the moment to act. He picked up a small stone from the floor and threw it toward the hallway wall. The sound made the thieves turn their heads in surprise. In that instant, Tom jumped forward and tackled the man closest to him. The others shouted and tried to fight back. A struggle began. Tom blocked a punch and pushed one thief against the wall. Another swung a knife, cutting Tom's arm slightly, but he did not stop. He grabbed a wooden pole from the floor and used it to block the next attack. The noise finally reached the guards outside. Sir Leon and his men rushed in, swords drawn. The thieves tried to escape through the window, but Sir Leon was faster. He swung his sword and disarmed the leader. The rest were quickly captured. When the fight ended, the crown was safe on its stand, shining under the light. Sir Leon turned to Tom, who was breathing heavily but standing tall. "You did well," he said. "You acted with courage and wisdom." Tom wiped the sweat from his face. "I could not let them take it, sir." "You have done more than your duty tonight," Sir Leon said. He placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "You have proven yourself not only to me, but to the whole kingdom." The next morning, the story spread across Eldoria. People spoke about how Tom, the man who once caused trouble at the palace, had now saved the royal crown. The king rewarded him with a silver medal of honor and an official place among the royal guards. Tom stood in front of the crowd as the king pinned the medal on his chest. His mother watched proudly from the front row. Tears filled her eyes as she saw her son standing in the uniform of a true guard. When the ceremony ended, Sir Leon approached him. "You have come far, Tom. You are a different man now." Tom smiled. "Thanks to you, sir. You gave me a chance when no one else would." Sir Leon shook his head. "You earned it through your own actions. Never forget that." As the sun set behind the palace towers, Tom looked up at the flag waving high above. The same gates where he had once made a fool of himself were now the gates he swore to protect. He felt proud and strong, knowing that every step of his journey had led him to this moment. But deep in his heart, he also knew that peace never lasted forever. The world outside the city walls was full of dangers, and one day he might have to face them again. Yet this time he was ready. The city of Eldoria was filled with laughter and life that afternoon. The sun shone brightly above tall stone walls, and colorful banners danced with the wind. Merchants shouted about their goods, children ran across the streets, and music from a nearby tavern echoed around the square. It was a peaceful day, the kind of day when even strangers smiled at one another. Among the crowd was a man named Tom. He was not a bad man, but everyone in the town knew that Tom had one problem. He liked to drink too much. Whenever he had too many mugs of ale, his feet forgot how to walk straight and his mouth forgot how to stay quiet. Still, most people liked him. He was funny, friendly, and often helped others when he was sober. But when he was drunk, trouble followed him like a shadow. That day, Tom had spent many hours inside the tavern called the Golden Mug. He laughed louder than anyone else, told stories that made no sense, and sang songs he did not remember the words to. The tavern keeper, a kind old man named Ben, had tried to stop him from drinking more, but Tom kept saying he was fine. When the sun began to sink behind the palace towers, Tom finally stumbled out of the tavern door with his arms waving in the air and his shoes half untied. The palace of Eldoria stood at the end of the main road. It was surrounded by a wide stone wall and guarded by men in red uniforms. The guards were known for their discipline. They stood still like statues for hours, even when people tried to make them laugh or talk. The citizens respected them because they protected the royal family and the peace of the city. Among those guards was Sir Leon, a tall man with sharp eyes and a strong jaw. He had served the royal family since his youth. His armor was always clean, his boots always polished, and his sword always sharp. He believed that order and respect were the heart of his duty. When others smiled or joked, Leon stayed quiet. People said he never even blinked during his watch. Tom, in his unsteady steps, found himself walking straight toward the palace gates. The road was empty there because people usually avoided getting too close to the royal guards. But Tom did not notice. He was humming a strange tune, waving his hands and trying to balance on the edge of the cobblestone path. When he finally reached the gates, he stopped and squinted at the tall guard in front of him. Sir Leon stood there like a statue, his face calm and his boots shining under the golden light. Tom smiled and pointed at him. "Hey, you look like a statue," Tom said with a hiccup. "Do you even move?" Sir Leon said nothing. His eyes stared straight ahead as if Tom were invisible. Tom took another step closer. "Wow, you must be tired standing all day," he said. He bent forward as if whispering a secret. You know, I think I could do your job too. Still no answer. Tom laughed at his own words and clapped his hands. He looked down at Sir Leon's black boots that reflected the sunlight. These are the shiniest shoes I have ever seen, he said. How do you keep them so clean? Sir Leon did not move. He was trained to ignore foolish talk. But deep inside he hoped this drunk man would soon leave. He did not like disrespect near the royal gate. Tom swayed from side to side and suddenly lost his balance. He reached out his arm to steady himself and accidentally stepped closer to the guard. His mug slipped from his hand and rolled across the stones. The last drops of ale spilled near Sir Leon's boots. Tom stared at the small puddle and then at the guard. Oh, no, sorry about that, he said and tried to laugh it off. But his clumsy movements made it worse. When he tried to pick up the mug, he stumbled again, and this time the liquid splashed directly on Sir Leon's boots. The crowd nearby gasped. A few market vendors turned their heads. They knew what would happen next. No one dared to mess with a royal guard, not even by accident. Sir Leon's jaw tightened. He looked down at his boots and then slowly raised his eyes toward Tom. His voice was deep and controlled. "Step back, citizen," he said. Tom raised both hands and laughed nervously. "I did not mean it, friend. It was an accident." "Step back now," Sir Leon repeated. Tom nodded but did not move fast enough. His drunken body made every motion slow and unsteady. "You should not wear shiny shoes if you stand near taverns," Tom said with a grin that was meant to be friendly, but looked foolish instead. That was the last straw. Sir Leon stepped forward with firm steps. His eyes were cold and serious. The people who watched from a distance grew silent. Even the market sounds faded for a moment. Tom suddenly realized how much trouble he had caused. He tried to speak again, but his words came out jumbled. "Wait, I was just joking. You are too serious, my friend." Sir Leon did not shout or draw his weapon. Instead, he stood close enough that Tom could see his reflection in the guard's helmet. "You will respect the royal uniform," he said firmly. "And you will clean your mistake before you leave." Tom blinked and nodded quickly. He bent down to wipe the boots with the edge of his sleeve. The motion was clumsy and he almost fell again. Sir Leon did not move. He watched carefully, making sure Tom would not cause any more trouble. When Tom was done, the boots looked worse than before because his dirty sleeve left marks. Tom tried to smile. "See good as new," he said weakly. Sir Leon sighed quietly. He did not wish to humiliate the man, but rules were rules. He stepped back and motioned for one of the junior guards nearby. The young guard approached quickly. "Take him away and let him sober up outside the market," Sir Leon ordered. The young guard nodded and gently held Tom's arm. Tom tried to protest, but the strength of the guard left him no choice. The crowd began to whisper among themselves. Some shook their heads, others laughed softly, and a few felt sorry for Tom. As Tom was led away, he turned his head and shouted back. "You guards have no sense of humor." Sir Leon stood tall and silent once more. The moment passed and the market sounds returned. For him it was just another day of duty, but for Tom it was only the beginning of something that would soon become the most embarrassing day of his life. The guards took him to a small post outside the market and made him sit on a wooden bench. They gave him water to drink and left him there until he could walk straight again. Tom sat quietly for a long time, thinking about what had just happened. He looked at his empty mug and then at his wet sleeve. He laughed softly to himself, not because it was funny, but because he could not believe how foolish he had been. As the sun began to set, the palace bells rang in the distance. The day that had started with laughter was ending with shame for Tom, but deep inside him a strange feeling started to grow. He felt angry at himself, but also at the guard who had embarrassed him in front of everyone. He told himself that he would make things right somehow, though he had no idea how to do it. And so, the story of Tom and the royal guard was only beginning. Tom sat on the wooden bench for a long time after the guards left him. The cool air of evening brushed against his face. His head still felt heavy, but his thoughts began to clear. The more he remembered what happened, the worse he felt. He had embarrassed himself in front of half the market and angered a royal guard. He rubbed his eyes and sighed. He had no idea what the next morning would bring, but he knew it would not be pleasant. The streets were quieter now. Shops were closing and torches were being lit along the walls. Tom slowly stood up and stretched his arms. His legs still wobbled a little, but he could walk without falling. He picked up his empty mug from the ground and looked at it for a moment. It reminded him of his mistake. He slipped it into his bag and began walking home. Tom's small house stood near the edge of the city, close to the river. It was not large or fancy, but it was warm and clean. His old mother, Mary, lived with him. She was kind and gentle, but often worried about Tom's drinking. When he entered the house, she looked up from her chair near the fireplace. Her face showed both relief and concern. "You are late again," she said. "And you smell like the tavern," Tom tried to smile. "It was a long day, Mother. I just needed a little drink." She shook her head. "A little drink never stays little with you, Tom. Sit down and tell me what happened." Tom hesitated. He wanted to hide the truth, but her eyes were sharp. He sighed and told her everything about the palace, the guard, and the accident. When he finished, his mother covered her mouth with her hand. "Tom, what were you thinking?" she said. "You could have been thrown into jail. Those guards do not forgive such behavior." "I know," Tom said quietly. "It was a mistake. I did not mean to do it." "You must go to the palace tomorrow and apologize," she said firmly. "You must show respect if you want peace." Tom looked at the fire. The idea of going back to face the guard made his stomach turn, but he knew she was right. He nodded slowly. "I will go. I will make it right." That night he could not sleep. His mind kept replaying the moment he spilled the drink. The sound of the crowd's laughter echoed in his head. He turned in bed again and again until morning light filled the window. When the sun rose, Tom washed his face, changed his clothes, and set out for the palace. He carried a small basket filled with fresh bread and apples as a gift. The guards at the gate recognized him immediately. They looked at him with suspicion, but he kept his head low. "I came to apologize to Sir Leon," he said politely. One guard frowned. "Wait here," he said, and went inside. A few minutes later, Sir Leon himself appeared. His red uniform looked perfect as always, and his expression was serious. Tom felt his knees weaken, but he forced himself to stand tall. Sir Leon stopped in front of him. "You have returned," he said in a flat tone. "Yes, sir," Tom said. "I came to say sorry for yesterday. I was not in my senses. I did not mean any harm. It was my fault completely." Sir Leon studied his face for a moment. The man in front of him looked sober and honest. He saw no pride or mockery in Tom's eyes, only regret. Finally, he nodded slightly. "You have courage to come back and admit your mistake. Most men would hide after such an act." Tom held out the basket. "Please accept this. It is not much, but I want to show my respect." Sir Leon looked at the basket but did not take it. The Royal Guard does not accept gifts from citizens. "But your apology is noted." Tom nodded and lowered the basket. "Thank you, sir. I promise this will never happen again." "You should promise yourself, not me," Sir Leon said. "A man is only as strong as his self-control." Those words stayed in Tom's mind. He bowed and turned to leave, but Sir Leon spoke again. "Wait," Tom stopped. "If you wish to truly make amends, there is a way," Sir Leon said. "Tomorrow the palace needs extra hands for cleaning after the royal inspection. You can come and help. Serve your time with honesty and your mistake will be forgotten." Tom was surprised. He expected punishment, not a chance to fix things. "I will come, sir," he said quickly. "I will do my best." "Be here at sunrise," Sir Leon said. Tom walked back home with mixed feelings. He felt nervous but also relieved. It was a chance to prove himself. When he told his mother, she smiled proudly. "See, my son, doing what is right always opens doors." The next morning, Tom arrived early at the palace. He was given a bucket, soap, and a brush. His task was to clean the stone floors near the garden walls. He worked hard, sweating under the sun, but he did not complain. Sir Leon passed by several times, watching quietly. During a short break, one of the younger guards approached Tom. His name was Benji, and he had seen the incident the other day. He smiled kindly. "You are lucky, Tom. Sir Leon is strict but fair. Many guards would have locked you up, I know," Tom said. "I will not waste this chance," Benji nodded. "He respects those who respect duty. You will earn his forgiveness if you keep working like this." The rest of the day passed slowly. Tom's arms ached and his knees hurt, but he kept scrubbing until the floor shone. When the job was done, Sir Leon walked over and looked at the clean stones. "Good work," he said. "You did not take breaks or complain." Tom wiped sweat from his forehead. "Thank you, sir. I wanted to show that I am sorry." Sir Leon nodded again. "You have done that. Leave now and remember this day. Let it remind you that respect is earned through actions, not words." Tom bowed and walked out of the palace gates. For the first time in a long while, he felt proud of himself. The shame that had weighed on him for days began to fade. He promised silently that he would never drink again, at least not enough to lose control. As he walked through the streets, people greeted him. News of his hard work spread quickly. Some laughed kindly and said he had learned his lesson. Others praised his courage for returning to face the guard. Tom only smiled. He did not need their words. He had found his own peace. That night he sat by the river watching the moon reflect on the water. The air was cool and calm. He thought about Sir Leon's words again. A man is only as strong as his self-control. He knew those words were true, but deep in his heart Tom also felt something else. He wanted to prove to everyone, including Sir Leon, that he was more than a foolish drunk. He wanted to become someone people respected. He looked at his reflection in the river and whispered to himself, "Tomorrow will be better." He did not know that fate still had more lessons for him. Sometimes a single mistake can lead to a chain of events no one expects. Tom's story was far from over. His path and Sir Leon's were going to cross again, in a way neither of them could imagine. The night grew quiet, and the stars shone brighter. The city slept peacefully, unaware that another strange day was waiting just beyond the horizon. The next morning began with the sound of horses' hooves on the stone streets. The royal city of Eldoria was busier than usual. Flags waved from tall towers and guards marched in perfect lines. The royal family was preparing for a public parade that only happened once a year. People from nearby villages came to watch, filling the streets with excitement and noise. Tom woke early that morning, feeling stronger than he had in weeks. His mother smiled as he helped her set the table. For the first time in a long time, he had eaten breakfast without the smell of ale nearby. The memory of the palace still stayed in his mind, but it no longer hurt him. It had become a lesson. After finishing his meal, Tom went outside. He saw a group of children waving small flags and laughing. The whole city looked alive. Tom smiled and decided to go help with the parade preparations. He wanted to do something useful. When he reached the main square, he found workers hanging banners and setting up wooden barriers for the crowd. He joined them, carrying ropes and helping tie the decorations. The workers were surprised to see him working so hard. One of them said, "Tom, you have changed. You are not the same man who used to sing in the tavern every night." Tom laughed softly. "Maybe I finally grew up," he said. As the morning passed, the sun climbed higher. At the palace, Sir Leon was also preparing for the parade. He was chosen to lead the front line of the royal guard that day. His armor shone and his boots were once again spotless. He remembered Tom for a moment and hoped the man had truly learned his lesson. By noon, the streets were full of cheering people. Trumpets sounded and drums beat in rhythm. The royal carriage appeared, carrying the king and queen of Eldoria. The crowd clapped and shouted with joy. Flowers were thrown into the air and children sat on their parents' shoulders to see better. Tom stood among the crowd, feeling proud of his city. He had never been so close to the royal parade before. He watched the guards march with perfect steps. At the front of the line was Sir Leon, his face calm and proud. Tom recognized him immediately. For a moment he felt nervous, but then he smiled. He wanted to show that he respected the guard now. But fate has strange ways of testing people. As the parade moved slowly through the main road, a horse in the back of the line became restless. Its rider tried to calm it, but the animal neighed loudly and reared up. The crowd gasped as the horse kicked its legs in panic. The rider almost fell, and the horse's movement startled the others. Tom saw the danger. A small child stood near the edge of the crowd, too close to the frightened horse. Without thinking, Tom jumped forward. He pushed the child back to safety, just as the horse's hooves struck the ground where the boy had been. The crowd shouted in surprise. The rider managed to regain control and the horse calmed down. Sir Leon quickly turned his head toward the commotion. He saw Tom standing there, his clothes covered in dust, holding the crying child. Guards rushed over to make sure everyone was safe. The child's mother ran forward and hugged her son tightly. Thank you," she said to Tom with tears in her eyes. Tom smiled and said, "He is fine. That is all that matters." Sir Leon walked over to them. The people stepped aside as he approached. He looked at Tom, his expression softer than before. "You acted bravely," he said. "You saved a life today." Tom lowered his head. "Anyone would have done the same, sir." "Not everyone would risk themselves for another," Sir Leon replied. "You have proven that your heart is good." The nearby crowd began to cheer. They clapped for Tom, calling him a hero. Tom felt his face grow warm, but he also felt proud. He had done something right at last. After the parade ended, Sir Leon invited Tom to the palace courtyard. The king had heard about the incident and wanted to meet the man who had saved the child. Tom could hardly believe it. He followed Sir Leon through the grand gates, past golden statues and marble walls. Inside the courtyard, the king stood with the queen beside him. Their clothes were decorated with jewels, but their smiles were kind. Sir Leon bowed deeply and spoke. "Your Majesty, this is the man who saved a child during the parade." The king stepped forward. "You have done a brave thing today," he said. "You showed courage and kindness, qualities we value in every citizen of Eldoria." Tom bowed so low that his head almost touched the floor. "It was nothing, Your Majesty. I just did what felt right." The king placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes the smallest acts make the biggest difference. What is your name?" "Tom, Your Majesty." "Tom," the king said, smiling. "You will be rewarded for your courage. From this day forward, you are welcome in the palace whenever you wish to work or serve. You have proven your worth." Tom's heart swelled with pride. He could not believe what he was hearing. Sir Leon looked at him and gave a small nod of approval. That evening, Tom walked home through the quiet streets, still feeling as if he were dreaming. People greeted him along the way. Some called him a hero. Others thanked him for protecting the child. His mother was waiting at the door when he arrived. She saw the look on his face and smiled before he even spoke. "I heard the news," she said. "My son, I am proud of you." Tom hugged her tightly. "I only did what anyone should do," he said. "You did what a good man does," she replied. The next few days passed peacefully. Tom started helping at the palace occasionally, cleaning or carrying supplies. Sir Leon often saw him working and gave him advice. The two began to talk more, and slowly a bond of respect grew between them. One afternoon, Sir Leon called Tom to the training yard. "You have a strong spirit," he said. "Would you like to learn discipline and defense? The guard always needs men who act with courage and heart." Tom hesitated. "Me, a guard? I'm just a worker." "Every guard starts as a worker," Sir Leon said. "If you are willing to learn, you can become one too." Tom thought for a moment. He remembered his foolish past and how far he had come. "Yes," he said. "I want to learn." From that day on, Tom began training under Sir Leon's watch. The work was hard. He learned how to hold a sword, march in step, and follow orders without complaint. He made mistakes but never gave up. Sir Leon was strict but fair, always pushing him to be better. As weeks passed, Tom grew stronger. His hands became rough, his back straight, and his eyes focused. The other guards started to respect him. He was no longer the man who had stumbled near the palace drunk. He was someone new. But even as Tom's life improved, something else was happening behind the palace walls. Rumors spread that a group of thieves planned to steal treasures during the next royal feast. Sir Leon heard of this plot and began to prepare. He did not know that Tom would soon be caught right in the middle of that danger. For now, though, Tom's heart was light. He trained every morning, helped his mother in the evening, and felt proud of the man he was becoming. He had turned his biggest mistake into a new beginning. The city slept peacefully that night, but the shadows beyond the palace gates were already moving. Trouble was coming again, and both Tom and Sir Leon would soon be tested once more. The morning sun rose gently over Eldoria, casting golden light on the castle walls and the streets below. The city was calm after the chaos of the parade. Birds sang on rooftops and vendors began setting up their stalls. It felt like the city was breathing again, free from the fear that had swept through it the day before. Tom woke early, his body aching from the long night. He stretched his arms and looked out the window. The light of the new day felt different, peaceful. He could still remember the sound of the crowd and the fear in the air when the horse had gone wild. He had never expected to become the man who would stop such trouble in front of everyone. His mother entered the room, smiling softly. "You did something brave yesterday," she said. "People are talking about you all over Eldoria." Tom smiled shyly. "I just did what I thought was right," he replied. Later that morning, he went to the marketplace. Everywhere he walked, people greeted him kindly. Some patted him on the back. Others thanked him for his courage. Even the children who once laughed at him for being the town drunk were now following him around, calling him a hero. But Tom did not feel like a hero. He still remembered his past mistakes, the foolish things he had done when he was not himself. He did not want fame. He only wanted peace. By midday, a royal messenger arrived at the marketplace. He rode a white horse and carried a golden scroll with the royal seal. The crowd grew quiet as he stopped in front of Tom. "Tom of Eldoria," the messenger announced loudly, "you are summoned by the royal family." Gasps came from the crowd. Tom stood frozen. His first thought was fear. "What did I do now?" he whispered. But the messenger's smile was kind. "The king wishes to see you," he said. Tom followed the messenger to the palace. The same gate stood before him where everything had started. The guards saluted him respectfully this time. He walked through the grand entrance and into the marble hall. Every step echoed and his heart beat fast. Sir Leon was waiting for him near the throne room. His face looked calm but friendly. "Tom," Leon said, "the king has heard what you did. You showed courage when others ran. You have earned great respect." Tom lowered his head. "I only helped because it was the right thing to do." Leon smiled. "That is what true honor is." The grand doors opened. The king and queen sat on their thrones dressed in elegant robes. The queen's eyes were gentle and the king's voice was deep but warm. "Tom of Eldoria," the king said, "we know of your past mistakes, but we also know of your bravery. You saved a royal guard and kept the crowd safe. You proved that a man can rise again no matter how far he has fallen." Tom bowed low. "Your Majesty, I am grateful for your kindness." "I do not deserve such words," the queen stood and smiled. "Perhaps not before, but today you do. We wish to offer you a place in the royal service. You will help our guards and work in the palace stables. It is honest work and your strength will be of great use." Tears filled Tom's eyes. He could hardly speak. "Thank you, my queen," he said softly. The king nodded. "Sir Leon will guide you. You have earned this second chance. Do not waste it." That evening, Tom began his new life. He worked beside the guards, cleaning the stables and taking care of the horses. He worked hard and never complained. Sir Leon often visited him and they would talk like old friends. There was respect between them now. Weeks passed and the city slowly forgot the chaos of the parade. But they never forgot Tom's courage. He became known as the man who stood for honor. The tavern where he once wasted his nights was still there, but he never stepped inside again. He preferred the quiet of the stables, the smell of hay, and the sound of horses breathing peacefully. One afternoon, while brushing a horse, Tom looked toward the palace courtyard. Children were running around, playing with wooden swords, pretending to be guards. He smiled and remembered the man he once was. He had changed, truly changed. Sir Leon walked up beside him. "The king is pleased with your work," Leon said. "You have done well," Tom nodded. "I am just happy to have purpose again." Leon smiled. "Sometimes the hardest battles are not fought with swords but within ourselves." "You won yours, Tom." Tom looked at him and smiled. "And I could not have done it without your lesson." Leon laughed lightly. "I did not teach you. Life did." The two men stood quietly watching the sunset behind the tall palace towers. The golden light touched the city, turning the walls and rooftops into glowing fire. The same city that once watched him fall was now watching him rise. Tom took a deep breath, feeling peace in his heart. He was no longer the man who stumbled through the streets or laughed at his own mistakes. He was part of something greater now, something that gave his life meaning. That night, as the stars filled the sky, Tom sat outside the stables and looked up. He whispered softly to himself, "A man can fall, but he can rise again." And in that quiet moment, with the palace lights shining behind him, Tom knew that his story had finally found its ending, not in shame, but in redemption.